The following program is sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin, Jeremy. Thanks for coming on and representing the Heat and Frost Insulators of Local 127. And we're here at your Clintonville Training Center. And let's get right into it. What the heck does an insulator do?
So mechanical insulators, we cover pressure vessels, piping, ductwork, heating systems, anything basically containing energy within a mechanical system where we got to control temperature above, below, ambient, or protect it from corrosion.
And so what I'm looking at here are the types of things you work on. I mean, is this a vessel that might contain either a hot or cold liquid or gas?
Yes, it is. And this is a piping mock-up that we use in some of our training practices.
And then what is this, some type of cladding? I mean, you guys have to put all this on?
Yeah, so we fabricate this from a long roll of cladding. And this would be your aluminum cladding with gores, miters.
It's pretty technical, right?
Yes, very technical.
I mean, and what is this, the insulation right here? I mean, look at that, that's pretty rigid.
Yeah,
and so all this has to fit around this?
That's some of the substrates we'd use, and we fabricate and develop this in the field. We field fit this stuff.
Well, you know, we're so excited to finally cover this trade because most people have no idea it exists and definitely don't understand the important work your members do out there throughout our infrastructure here in Wisconsin. But before we get into the details of industrial insulation, let's talk about what happens if we don't have this type of insulation on some projects like piping at a power plant or piping at a refrigeration facility or even ductwork around the state.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it gets into like an industrial setting like a power plant, there could be excessive fuel consumption to produce energy. Your steam could condense and actually create explosions in the plant. We also insulate for corrosion protection at power plants and burn protection.
So it's really important what you do. Even though you might be considered behind the scenes, you're really at the forefront of safety and efficient operation.
That is absolutely correct. And then when we get into like our industrial refrigeration, it's extremely important, again, to reduce energy consumption, protect from corrosion, and stop the growth of mold.
And you know, most of our viewers today, I would venture to guess, are like, oh, I've done insulation before around my house. I've thrown some bats up in the attic or I've insulated a pipe around a water heater. But what your members do is far from that, isn't it?
Yeah, the residential, bat blown insulation, that's extremely different from what we do. And even like the polyethylene foam that you'd find at the hardware store, the foam, our materials are different, more industrial like fiberglass, mineral wool, styrofoam, and then protective jackets like aluminum or PVC.
Sure.
So all kinds of different substrates we work with.
And everything you're talking about, substrates, I mean, you need to fabricate that. And that's why you need a 4-year apprenticeship to get through it and a lot of training, dealing with a lot of different situations, right?
That's absolutely correct. And our materials that we work with are expensive. So we don't want to make mistakes because it becomes costly. So fabrication and fitting is very important.
Okay, so when we look at the geographic area of Local 127, where do most of your members work?
So we cover Northeast Wisconsin, 43 counties in Northeast Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula.
Wow, that's pretty big. What's the big draw for insulation up here?
A lot of our work comes from the ammonia refrigeration, food production, dairies. We also handle our utilities, and we work into the farm settings, and we even get into some of the hospitals and schools. So we're all over.
Is there a big call for more insulators? I mean, does the future look bright?
Yeah, the industry is definitely growing. There's a high demand with energy conservation and everybody, trying to reduce their footprint on the carbon footprint.
Sure, well, this is great to hear that there's a need for insulators, but you need to get an apprenticeship. And so what's involved in that process with Local 127?
So we have an application process in place too. You can either get an application by visiting our website, insulators127.org, or you can call our contractor office and they can email or mail a packet. Once you complete the packet, then you get a letter of introduction. Once you have your letter of introduction, we encourage you to go and talk with our contractors and get to know the contractors and entice them to hire you.
Okay, so really what you're saying there, Local 127 doesn't actually hire me, but they put me in touch and point me in the right direction once I have my letter of introduction with your signatory contractors. And if I'm a hardworking individual and they hire me, future looks bright. I can start the apprenticeship process.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, good. Well, I want to catch up with Kirby right now to learn more about the specific training going on here today. Hopefully I catch up with you later in the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin, Kirby. Thanks so much for coming on today's show. And you know, I was just talking to Jeremy, and now I'm dying to learn what these 4 apprentices are learning right here today at school.
Also, we've got a group of third years here today. Currently what we do when they come in is we have them work on layouts, and these layouts are for the aluminum jacketing. He's got an unequal T, which is a smaller pipe going into a bigger pipe. And on this one, it's a unequal Y, meaning that it's a smaller pipe going into a bigger pipe. The sizes are different, that's why it's unequal.
And so when these 4 are out on the job site, I mean, they'll have to understand all these radiuses, all the bigger pipe, smaller pipe, all the components that are going in, even though some of it might be sheet metal work and some of it might be gas work.
Right. They need to understand a lot on the fly. Every situation they're going to run into out in the job site is going to be different for the most part.
You know, when I look at how complicated it is, we've said it before in Building Wisconsin, any high school student out there, make sure you pay attention in math and do well, because of everything you learn in high school, if you're getting into the trades, it's applicable right here.
Math is super important. Dividing fractions is something that I think everybody needs to know in a construction trade, because you're dealing with a ruler and you need to have a measurement, and sometimes you need to split that measurement in half.
And with the products that you're building and installing, it is critical that it's done correctly. You don't want any gaps in that insulation, I assume.
Absolutely.
Well, I notice there's only 4 apprentices here. You keep it in small groups?
Yes, we find that the small groups are better for the students because they get more time with the instructors. And it's also better for the instructors because we are able to focus on a smaller group.
Okay, and obviously there's an interior component, but when I pulled in, I noticed some mock-ups outside. What do they learn outside?
They're actually applying material outside, and then they're going to jacket it. Outside, we're working on refrigeration right now, which is a pretty involved system. And I'm allowing them to try a couple different things. There's 2 different ways that you can approach putting pipe insulation together. It's called nesting and saddling. And I'm just allowing them to play and learn some different techniques.
Do you find it works pretty well for them? I mean, do they also gain an appreciation for what their career is going to entail?
Sure, absolutely it does. It gives them the opportunity here. It gives them a safe place to try different things to find what works for them. So you start playing with your order of operations to find out which one works better, produces a better product, and is maybe a little faster. Sure. Right? Yeah. So you're looking to get all 3 of those things, you know, to hone your skills in to be productive as a mechanic.
Okay, well, thanks for the quick overview on an apprenticeship for Local 127. Hope to see you again on Building Wisconsin.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin, Nate. Thanks a lot for coming on. And oh, what a beautiful, looks like a brand new facility.
Thanks, Stu. Yeah, we just moved in 6 months ago. Moved in from a 6,500 square foot shop, and this is about 35,000.
So it's fair to say that business is good?
Business is very good right now, yes.
Oh, wonderful. So tell us more about Straightline Refrigeration.
So we're a design build industrial refrigeration contractor. We've been in business for 10 years. Our new location's in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. We do a lot with different food facilities. We work at pharmaceutical. We do even ice rinks. So we work in freezer, cold storage, blast freezing, all the above.
Really? So it sounds like what I've learned so far about the insulators, they're an integral cog in your wheel.
Yeah, they're a huge part. They're just another step in the process. We got to get on site, and they have to be very involved on the whole aspect. They need to know when shutdowns are going to happen, when our scheduling is going to happen.
Okay, so as I look around behind us, give us an idea what these guys are working on.
So we have a new engine room, so they're doing some prefabrication for that. We have some upcoming shutdowns for a customer over Easter that we're going to prefab as much here as we can.
Well, as busy as you are, prefabrication must be nice. Is most of your work done here and then assembled on site?
We try to do as much as we can here because a lot of our work is on the roof. So we like to do as much as we can here, but still overall it's probably 20% of what we do, 80% in the field.
Well, obviously on today's show, we're focusing in on the insulators.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is they're an integral cog in our infrastructure and all these industrial projects. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, they're very important. So we take a project that we get originally and we get it to our design team and we have to get that process going. Well, when we get out in the field, we need to have our insulators on board with us. They need to have the right material. They need to be set up on timing. How long is it going to take them to put it in? Along with, we know what our time is going to take. They need to be working with us to make sure that we're on time and hit the customer's needs.
Again, it seems to me it's a partnership with them and all the other trades. And that's why we're so fortunate here in Wisconsin, because everybody works so well together and it leads to a higher quality of life for us.
Very much so.
Yeah, well, I wish we had more time to learn more about Straightline Refrigeration, maybe in a future episode. Right now, I'm going to go talk to John to learn what the insulators are up to.
Thank you.
Welcome to Building Wisconsin, John. Thanks for coming on today's show. And we wanted to catch up with you as a insulation contractor so we get a real world feel of what your mechanical insulators are doing on a daily basis. But before we get into that, how impressed are you with this facility? I sure am.
Yeah, this is a great facility. Like I said, we have a good partnership with Straightline Refrigeration. Allow us to come here and do a lot of our installation before it's installed in the field, where it's climate controlled. We're not going outside, fighting with weather, winter, wind, rain. It's, like I said, it's always nice and sunny in here, and we're very fortunate to have that relationship.
And I bet your guys really like being able to come in when it's 40 below outside in January.
Absolutely, they always take a day to be inside versus outside in the middle of the winter.
And when I talk about your guys, of course, I'm talking about the mechanical insulators. Tell us a little bit about your company, Taylor Insulation, and what you guys specialize in.
Sure, so yeah, I'm with Taylor Insulation. We specialize in the ammonia, cold storage, food industry, pulp and paper, process piping. We do kind of a little bit of everything. We're very diversified in what we do.
Yeah, this whole sector of our economy, this trade in general, it's like a hidden gem. I mean, hardly anybody has even heard of it, yet it's so important in our daily lives.
Right, it's like I always joke, it's everywhere, it's in every building, but nobody knows it's there.
Sure. Okay, well, let's get into this and talk about what you have these guys actually doing today.
Sure, so right now they're insulating a float column that's going to go on these tanks over here. They're going to go to a dairy plant in north central Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. So it's going to tie into those vessels over there?
Yep.
And what exactly does a float column do?
So this measures the ammonia in these systems. So with the sight glasses, you can see that'll tell them where the levels are at, if they're safe or too high, too low.
And that's a good example of what's running through all these pipes. I mean, it could be really cold, it could be really hot, it could be a liquid, it could be a vapor. I mean, you don't know, a gas going through it, right?
And like I said, these are extremely cold, so this could run at negative 40 Fahrenheit. So that we got to make sure that it's insulated very well. Our vapor barriers are sealed tight, and keep moisture out of the system.
You know, earlier back at the training center, I was talking to Jeremy, and he said, you know, if we didn't have experienced professionals putting the proper insulation on, it could lead to corrosion. Is that what they're doing here? This is going to prevent it?
Right, so what it prevents is this purple grease you see.
Yep.
The RG2400, that is actually a corrosion inhibitor. So that'll keep the pipe from corroding underneath the insulation. So if moisture or something does get into the system, it's not going to corrode the pipe.
Also good for energy efficiency as well?
Absolutely. I mean, without the insulation, you're going to spend so much more in energy and fuel costs. Insulation pays for itself.
Do you find that you guys do most of your prefabrication like in a controlled environment, or do you guys do a lot out on site as well?
We do probably a bulk of our work is on site.
Really?
So we obviously prefab what we can, but majority of it's field applied.
And what we've learned so far in the show is the mechanical insulators going through 127 are getting a well-versed education. Tell us a little bit about the importance of that partnership.
Yeah, so we have a great partnership with Local 127. I believe our training program with the apprentices is second to none. And our guys come out, they're very professional, they're safe, and they have, you know, quality control is huge. We want to make sure we're doing the best for our customers, and our customers expect the best.
And you know, I was amazed by all the different facets of this industry that they get trained on, and not only just within the mechanical insulators, but they have to be well versed on what the pipe fitters are doing, with the sheet metal, you know, all the different trades.
And everybody does it a little different. So there's multiple types of insulation, piping, you know, carbon, stainless, copper. The combinations are endless, and the types of insulation we use, I mean, there's several different types, so they got to be very well versed in what they're doing.
Well, it's been great getting just a small sample of what these highly skilled professionals do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
John, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Wow, Matt, I gotta hand it to you. When I think of a power plant, I think it's kind of dirty. This is incredibly clean.
This is our innovative Weston Rice facility that's a part of our overall Weston Power Plant here near the Wausau area. It's a facility and a site that's been producing power for homes and businesses across the state of Wisconsin for more than 70 years. But this facility in particular is just about 2 years old. We brought it online and it's capable of powering more than 77,000 homes.
Yeah, it's called a RICE system, and that stands for Reciprocal Internal Combustion Engine. And are you happy with how it works?
Absolutely. And you know, you see all of the technology, you see these big engines right here, and it seems intimidating, but really this facility in each engine works similar to the engine that's in your car. These engines on an individual basis can produce approximately 26,000 horsepower per engine. That equates to 128 megawatts of energy.
Wow, and again, this is using natural gas, and we had done a previous episode on Building Wisconsin down at the Oak Creek campus in southeastern portion of the state. And what I took away from that is that natural gas is a critical base fuel for electrical power generation when the renewables can't keep up. And is that really what led you to doing this?
Our job is to provide safe, reliable energy to our customers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And this facility really does help because its engines are quick start. They can come on very quickly to meet that demand of our customers when the sun is not shining, when the wind is not blowing. They also are very flexible too, so they can really match the demands of our customers. If we start to see an increase in demand, these engines can ramp up and really be able to meet that demand from our customers. And when the demand goes down, then they can back off as well. So it really does help us provide that with our renewable energy facilities.
Well, that is awesome. And on today's show, what we're doing is we're going to learn what the mechanical insulators from Local 127 are up to. And to me, they must be extremely important in operating and maintaining this facility.
Our mechanical insulators, as well as all of the skilled trades that work here at the Weston Power Plant site, play a critical role in being able to help our customers receive the reliable, the affordable, the safe energy that they depend on each and every day. Our mechanical insulators were very critical not only to the initial construction of the Weston Rice facility, but also its operations as we move forward. They help us continue to allow the plant to run efficiently. They help us to make sure that it is well maintained so that we can provide energy to our customers all throughout the year.
Boy, that sounds like a great partnership you have with all the trades, but especially in this case, the mechanical insulators, because after all, we all depend on reliable electricity when we need it, right? You don't think about it until you're without power, and boy, is it frustrating. So because of that highly skilled workforce, up here in central Wisconsin, you don't have to worry about it very often.
Absolutely, and it really is a testament to the hard work and the dedication of all of the skilled trades that we have working here at the Weston Power Plant, as well as our own internal staff as well, and their efforts, and it's really all focused on making sure that our customers have the energy that they need when they need it.
Well, I wish we had more time to tour the entire facility, but right now I'm going to catch up with Jeremy to see what the professionals from Local 127 are up to. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Stu.
Well, Jeremy, earlier in the show we saw your members working on an ammonia refrigeration system, but what I just learned is that they also play an integral role in the operation and maintenance of power plants. So let's take a minute to learn more about their role here.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we work on a variety of roles within Weston Power, or any power plant for that matter, from burn protection to thermal insulation to reduce fuel consumption, also to prevent steam from condensing, keeping the boiler online, also even for corrosion when you heat cycle.
Oh, wow. So really, when we talk about being an integral part of the operation, you guys are essential to keep this plant up and running.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, so what are these guys doing right here? These are your members.
So these guys are working on a piece of aluminum cladding that they will encapsulate insulation in, and it's going to become a removable cover for a valve.
Okay, so is this really a prefab area? I mean, did this start with flat stock or coil stock and they actually bent it on site here?
Yeah, a roll of aluminum is 3 foot by 100 foot long typically, and they work with a brake and a shear, and they'll cut it to their size, do their layouts, and then fabricate as needed. Right here, Jake is drilling for fasteners so he can put some additional bends in and secure the box mechanically together.
And this is probably a great example of how, yeah, you like to do as much prefab as possible off-site, but when you're here, there's so many different components, you got to custom make a lot of stuff for this application.
That's absolutely correct. A lot of the things here are field fabricated.
And again, it comes back to the training that they get to know how to do it. So they're doing some prefab here. You mentioned there's a bunch of different things insulators do. Can we go and look at some other aspects?
Yeah, absolutely, Stu. Come on, follow me. Let's go take a look at a blanket. Stu, as you notice as we walk through the plant, you see that everything's insulated. This is the work that our members perform on a daily basis.
And so when you're talking insulation, all the silver colored stuff, that's not piping, that's wrap around it.
That is absolutely correct. So what we have here is we have a piping system with a removable blanket for something that you have to open this up for service, for inspection, x-ray. This is a valve, so if there's leaky packing, they could quickly remove this, do what they need to do, and then reinstall this. And then as we get down here into the sweep, these are gores that we laid out in the fab shop that we just visited. Coming in from there, you got more piping, put some calcium silicate or mineral wool insulation, and then we get into another removable pad. This is a dual layer system to really hold the heat back. There's 2 layers here. You've got your outer layer and your inner layer. And the reason we do this is the inner layer has a mesh jacketing because if we use the cloth on the interior, it would burn.
That's that hot in there.
It is that hot in there.
Okay.
And then the joints, when we stagger the joints, what you get, if you don't do that, you get like heat volcanoes. And you have heat rising out of that. So the second piece that they'll install over this will cover that area and trap that heat.
So this is a good example of one of the tasks you might do on a regular basis. Your members have removed this to do some maintenance, and when we're gone from doing our shoot, they're going to actually reinstall it and they can reuse this material?
Yes, absolutely. That creates efficiency and it's good for the environment.
And you know what I find amazing is they're taught how to do seamstress work. I mean, they build these components.
Yes, we build them by hand on site or even off site in the fab shop, but we do build these blankets.
And again,
custom.
everything is custom made for each piece of equipment in this setting and probably all the settings that you guys work in. And to me, I mean, you have to be so well versed in everything.
That's why we have our school, and that's why we cover all the things we do, from the math to the reading, the layouts, the pattern, the fabrication, the hands-on. It all plays a critical role in coming into the field in an environment like this to deliver a quality product to our customers.
And at the forefront of all that is safety, because they're in the inner workings of this. They have to be ultimately the safest of anybody here.
Safety is impeccably important. At the end of the day, if you're not safe, you may not come back home to your loved ones. We entrench safety, we demand safety. Safety is our goal.
Well, it's made sense. I've learned so much about the mechanical insulation trade on today's show, one that I barely even knew existed, and I hope our viewers have a better appreciation of what goes into it. And in my opinion, this is where the pros come to do this type of work. How's the future look?
The future with the mechanical insulators, Local 127, is prosperous, great. We have a ton of work coming up, being in the green sector and energy conservation, fuel conservation, dealing with green energy, renewables. The focus is on us. It's our job to deliver a quality product that reduces operating costs and emissions.
For more information on Building Wisconsin, follow us on Facebook and be sure to watch additional episodes on YouTube or at our website, buildingwiscontintv.com. The preceding program was sponsored by the Building Wisconsin Television Network.